All right, everyone, and we are live once again. Welcome, everyone, to our eighth episode of KC Reacts. I'm Kevin Hammer,
I'm Chris Barrett.
and of course, we have a very special guest where we have our good friend Elena back, aka the Based Mother. Welcome back to the show.
I'm psyched to be here. Thanks, guys.
Oh, I don't know if you're going to be as psyched once we get going with the clips, but we'll see how that goes. All right. So before we jump into that entertainment, though, Chris and I do have an announcement. Uh, we actually are going to be starting a new YouTube channel that's just dedicated to KC Reacts. We've been using mine for a while just because we wanted to get, we wanted to, test the waters and see how things went. So we feel we've gotten to a place where we're ready to do that. So Chris, why don't you tell them a little bit about that quick?
Yeah, so what I did is I set up a new YouTube channel. Right now, there is no content on it. I need to upload our previous YouTube clips and videos and everything to it. But it's going to be youtube.com/KC Reacts Live. There is another Casey Reacts on YouTube. A totally different thing. It's like a stand-up comedian. So that's not it. So just like I said, keep in mind it's Casey Reacts Live.
Yeah.
So youtube.com/Casey Reacts Live.
And people, once we have that established, I will be updating all of our videos in the description to have that link to that YouTube channel. And with that though, let's get jumping into this because we got to introduce Elena to Lindsay, aka Lindz, Amer of Queer Kid Stuff. So I'd say it probably has been at least around 10 years, 8 to 10 years. The videos go back at least 8 years on the YouTube channel. That this individual, Lindsay Amer, created the show Queer Kid Stuff on YouTube and has been pushing marketing to children ever since. So with that, just to right off the bat show you how much this was aimed at kids from the beginning, this Queer Kid Stuff, even outside the name, I'm going to play for you right now the first initial intro for Queer Kid Stuff. So this is actually the music that Lindsay first had for Queer Kid Stuff. So here we go. We're starting with that.
Hey, welcome to Queer Kid Stuff. Me and my teddy, we're friends for life. All of us together, it's such a delight. You and me and him and we and them and they. Let's all be ourselves today. Queer Kid Stuff.
All right. So as you can see from the very beginning, this is obviously a major push to target children. Like I said, this is 8 years ago, give or take a little bit of time. So that means Lindsay was a pioneer, relatively speaking, for targeting children with queer ideology. And that teddy bear you see is actually Lindsay's co-host in the show. So, Chris, what's your first initial response to that intro?
Well, as you said, it's obviously an attempt to go after kids. That could have been the opening to Mr. Rogers or something, but yeah, a lot of the stuff used to not be directed to kids in any sort of way. And obviously now it is. And I think that that's the thing that is hopefully waking up a lot of people is that, and I said that even in the promotion to this podcast for tonight, it's like they are literally coming after your children.
Mm-hmm.
And they are. And by the way, make no mistake, this is not like just the gay stuff. This is everything because they're using the term queer, and as we know, queer is a very who knows what the hell it means.
Mm-hmm.
So this is well beyond just even the gay stuff. This is everything. So yeah, that's
Yep.
kind of my reaction to it.
Elena, what's your initial reaction to this opening for Queer Kid Stuff?
It's so off-putting. Like it just gives me, it makes me at a loss for words, almost, you know, knowing what we know about the transgender community with the surgeries and the hormones and all the horrible side effects, which I'm sure we'll get into. They'll come up. It's so sinister to put children on that path with this fun rainbow chalk and a teddy bear and the cutesy he, her, they, them song and all that. It makes me sick. But what's on my mind as I'm sitting here is, you said this came out about 8 to 10 years ago. And, you know, 8 to 10 years ago, we weren't all aware that they were coming after our children at this level. What are what seeds are happening now out there that we haven't heard about yet, that we're not going to hear about for another 2, 5, 10 years? Like, what's it going to be then? Now we know a lot of stuff. You know, the three of us here are pretty aware about the normalization of pedophilia, and, you know, queer now probably includes, you know, minor attracted persons that we have to accept. But every time I turn around, there's something more hideous and sinister that they're doing to our kids. And this scares me because I wasn't aware of this. And what are we going to be blindsided with next?
And keep in mind, Lindsay, actually, so queer kid stuff, right? I didn't become even aware of that until back in the era of social justice warriors. That was when I first became aware of queer kid stuff. And I will say that Lindsay's show was, when I first found this, it actually was one of the things that started to really shape me in the mindset that this is just absolutely wrong to see this content. And I want to quickly jump to the comments, then we're going to move on to the next clip. Daniel in the comments, he commented with, "Reading Rainbow kinda just defiled like crazy." Pretty much. I think that is a fairly accurate description. And I'm pretty sure that is actually what Lindsay had in mind. But with that, we're going to jump to one of her educational videos. I'm sure she thinks they all are, where Lindsay explains what gay means. Now, some of these clips are a little bit long, and I did that on purpose because I really want you to get the full understanding. It's not the entire clips, but at least long enough for you to really get where Lindsay is going with this. And I have a personal reason as to why this specific clip bothers me, and I have a personal story to share later on once we get through the clips about that. So without further delay, here we go. This is Lindsay explaining what gay means.
You had a really good question for me yesterday. What was it again?
Lindsay, yesterday I heard someone say the word gay. What does gay mean?
Sometimes when you hear the word gay, it might mean happy. Like if I went to recess yesterday and I had a really great time, it made me feel gay or happy. But most of the time when you hear the word gay, it probably means something else, and that has to do with love. So gay means when one person of one gender loves someone of the same gender. Like if a boy loves a boy, they're a gay couple, and if a girl loves a girl, they're a gay couple too. And even if a teddy loves a teddy, they're going to be a gay couple. That's what gay means. Gay means love.
All right. So quickly, why this first pissed me off, and then like I said later, I'll tell my personal story, is this is such a simplification of the word of gay that this would just confuse children en masse, because what she is saying is that basically gay is when a boy loves another boy or a girl loves another girl, right? Well, say you have a 6-year-old boy that has had this explanation given to him, and he has a really good friend that's a boy, right? He loves his friend. If you tell this small child that that's what gay is, it just means two people of the, you know, both two boys or two girls love each other, that is beyond confusing as all. Honestly, it infuriates me, and it's abusive in my opinion. Elena, I'm going to throw it to you first. What's your initial reaction to this clip of what does gay mean?
It's exactly what you're saying, that they're confusing kids. And then in order to clarify then you have to start having a more sexual adult conversation with the kid
Mhm.
in order to clarify the way mommy and daddy fell in love. They got married. They only hold hands with each other. They only kiss each other. I don't know how they would do it. That was just a guess, but that's the thing. So now you've got little kids, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and you have to start talking to them about adult relations and sexuality in order to clear up, clear the air on this. So it's very, it's so sinister.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris.
So I look at this and first of all, I'm kind of like, this is obviously geared towards like a preschool, maybe kindergarten, first grade, possibly second grade um age range. This is not a discussion that needs to be happening with someone of that age. I mean, even the heterosexual stuff doesn't need to be discussed at that age, because I mean, someone who's in a kid who's in second grade is just not simply thinking about those things. So, it's kind of gross to me that someone thinks that this is a discussion that is fit for kids. And it's not, obviously as a gay person, I don't think that there's anything terrible about homosexuality in and of itself. But at the same time, I just don't think that or any sexual content really needs to be discussed with a kid. So I guess that's the thing that bothers me. It's like they're talking about sexual orientation, and the word has the definition right in it, sexual. Why are you discussing something sexual with kids?
Absolutely.
Can
And
I just add that teddy bear is really creepy. He has no
oh, it
mouth.
is
He
right.
looks like a friggin' hostage. Like,
If
it's just a bad situation, this whole thing.
if I call correctly, I think that is actually Lindsay's teddy bear from when she was a child.
Ugh.
And I don't know. I think maybe that teddy bear was possessed and possessed her. I don't know. It's a working theory. But yeah, no, it's creepy. Trust me. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually Teddy talking, by the way. I mean, it's creepier than Chucky. Give me Chucky, all right?
Wait,
Give
do
me
you mean
Annabelle, give
Teddy?
me Chucky.
Do you mean Teddy or Teddy Bundy?
No, just creepy overall. So, all right. So Lindsay just didn't fancy herself, a content creator in regards to creating videos like this, a show for kids, right? She also fancies herself a musician. And I forget, and she's also an author. She's wrote a number of books aimed at children, most of them. I forget if this book that she specifically is going to be singing about in this next clip, I forget if it's one of hers herself that she wrote, or if she was just promoting it for a friend. But this book is actually called The Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish, Swish, Swish. And yes, and she actually wrote a song for it. And yes, Daniel commented in all caps, "Oh no, not her music." Well, Daniel, we're going there. We're dragging Elena there. We're dragging you all there. So without further ado, without further delay, of course, we are going to be watching the hips on the drag queen go swish, swish, swish.
Let's all suffer together.
I know.
Ready? All right, my friends, are you ready to sing this book with me? It might sound like a familiar song, so try to sing along, all right? The first line is the hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 all right? The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 swish. The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 all through the town.
Yeah, I made that a short clip, by the way, because we weren't going to do that. And Daniel in the comments, Misery Loves Company. I would rather live through the movie Misery than listen to like 24 hours of this woman's music. So Misery sounds like Paradise, the film, comparatively. Chris, I'm gonna throw it to you. What's your initial take on this this little, song?
Well, it's obviously trying to make this stuff kind of cutesy. And one of the reasons that I go so hard against drag shows for kids is because I think that it is essentially a vehicle to get gender ideology concepts planted into kids' heads. So that's why, I'm so against any sort of drag for kids. So again, I mean, in addition to that, she is essentially trying to normalize drag for kids. And as we're going to see in future clips, it makes sense why, because she is totally on board with all the gender ideology stuff.
Absolutely. Elena, it's a small clip, but what's your reaction to that, just that little snippet?
I am psychoanalyzing this girl now. Like, I just can't help it. First of all, I don't like to make fun of people's appearances, and I'm not trying to do that, but she is the living, breathing, walking Pat from Saturday Night Live. She is, except she's got, a pedo tendency, which Pat didn't have. And I'm like freaked out by this girl. Why does somebody, want to sing to children about drag queens if they don't have a pedo, sexual tendency to, want to talk about children, sex with children? And what it does is it's what Chris said about, it just normalizes the gender ideology, but it does more than that. So just last week, in the Seattle Public School, Whittier Elementary, the PTA brought in a drag performer to do story time and bingo night. And now this is a guy named Sylvia O. Stayformore. And when you go to Sylvia O. Stayformore's website, he's got all of these lewd performances, where he's stripping and, he's taking clothes off of other men and grabbing genitals, and super sexy, comedy sex, I guess you could call it, strictly for adults. But if these kids remember, Sylvia O. Stayformore came to my school, and then they go on their phone and they look for O. Stayformore, this stuff is readily available. Now they are on the site of a sex performer instantly. And it just takes them, it's just one easy step. And every kid's got a smartphone or a tablet, and they can easily find this person. And this is now somebody that they are supposedly looking up to because they came and entertained them at school. And that's what this one here on the screen with her song is promoting. And I had enough. I had enough of this. America's had enough of this. Like, this isn't going to end well.
Well, it does not end well with this. Trust me, Elena. And what you're analyzing in regards to what you're coming to understand about Lindsay is confirmed in a clip that will be coming up in a bit, where I think we're about 4 clips away. And trust me, Elena, it's gonna be eye-opening and also sickening. Before we go to the next clip, Janice said, I'm kind of curious about the other verses. Well, Janice, you can definitely look it up. We're not going to cover those here this evening. It's on Lindsay's channel. So, and if you want to go down that dark rabbit hole, people, trust me, be prepared for the ride. So with that, we are going to move on to our next clip, because Lindsay isn't just a predator who, confined herself to her little YouTube channel, right? She did TED Talks. She was actually on a TED Talk. And she contributed to popular television shows. And that includes Blue's Clues. Now, many of you may remember when Blue's Clues did the Pride Parade, right? They featured it on the show itself. Lindsay was actually one of the creative contributors to that episode. And she actually states it on her resume. So with that, we are going to watch a quick clip from that Blue's Clues episode of the Pride Parade that was featured and that Lindsay here contributed to.
Hey, Blue, look at all these families. Hi, families. It's time for a pride parade. Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. This family has two mommies, they love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big hooray.
All right. So I guess the most I'll say, I think that's the first Pride parade I've seen in years that didn't have, you know, pony play or some other type of kink pup play or something featured in it. So, you know, I guess credit where credit is due. Because which that comes into play later, by the way, with Lindsay, Kink at Pride. We'll get there. But yeah, this just, no, absolutely not. And you just don't see like the standard Pride flag, right? You see the power fist there. You see different flags. I forget what some of them mean. So this isn't just you know, even a standard Pride flag. This is, look at all these other flags and all this other symbolism that we've included in here as well. So with that, Chris, what's your initial response to this here?
All right. So, you know, for everyone to know, I protested outside of St. Louis Pride in St. Louis, Missouri, because they were allowing children in there. That was something that I found abhorrent, because and we sent people in undercover to video what was going on in there. And of course, I wasn't necessarily surprised, because Pride has devolved into something that was originally a political protest. That I have no problem with. Again, though, still, it's a political protest, so why do kids need to be involved? Um, but then on top of that, though, now they're wanting to bring kids into this stuff, and we saw, you know, women walking around with their asses hanging out, and you know, guys in jock straps and stuff like that, you know, walking around at St. Louis Pride. And, you know, it's like, why would you want your child to be exposed to this? Now, there is a flip side, though. While I did protest St. Louis Pride, when I was in charge of the Missouri chapter of Gays Against Groomers, I did have people come to me and say, "Hey, Chris, there's going to be kids invited to this Pride event." Okay, I would go and I'd look into it, because, you know, I always wanted to make sure to cover all of my bases. And some people may disagree with me, but I refused to actually go after them, because what it turned out was they were just having a picnic or something. And, you know, I mean, I do believe in some sort of freedom of association, which is guaranteed to us under the Constitution. And maybe this is just a little bit of the libertarian in me. And I was just kind of like, no, I'm not going to do anything to interfere with that, because that's all they're doing. They're just, you know, they're calling it a pride event, which to me is stupid. So don't get me wrong there. I mean, I don't really think this pride stuff really has any room in the social zeitgeist anymore anyway, you know. But fine, that's what they were calling it. But all it was were, you know, families getting together having a picnic. So I've played both sides of this, you know, to a certain degree. So when it is an extreme, like a freaking parade, like what this stupid thing is promoting, you know, yes, absolutely, I was against it. But if it's like some sort of like actual family event, then I was like, no, I'm not going to bother them. I'm just going to
And
leave them
Chris,
alone.
Before we get to Elena, I can confirm one thing, is that before the S really hit the fan with everything and it became the perversion, the absolute perversion that it is, I do remember like one of the events the local Pride Center had many years ago was legitimately a picnic. It was a family picnic. They had pride flags there, that's true, but there was no drag queens. There wasn't any kind of kink present. It genuinely was just a picnic where the majority of families happened to be with the parents were same-sex couples and bringing their most often adopted children. And they were having food. The kids were playing on the slides together. And then it wrapped up. They had games. They had, horseshoes and all that stuff. And then everyone went home. unfortunately, that world seems so far gone right now.
It's true.
And
It's true.
what we're
It
lost
does.
in is absolute, unquestionable perversion. With that, Elena, I'm gonna throw it to you. What do you think? Because this is Blue's Clues. This is a national show. This isn't just her little show herself. Lindsay has. She contributed to this.
Yeah, well, good for her. Congratulations. What bothers me most about this, we have this one, we have the Muppet Babies. Do you remember when Gonzo turned into Gonzarella that time on Muppet
Mhm.
Babies? Disney is loaded. Netflix children's shows are loaded with drag and queer stuff and transgender ideology. What bothers me is that most parents in America are still oblivious to what their kids are consuming. If everybody knew how damaging this was and what a slippery slope mentally it is for a child to see this and then slip into I'm in the wrong body very quickly because of the indoctrination, I think parents would then maybe be more careful, but they just don't they wouldn't give their kid, poison candy, but they'll give their kid this device that has all this mental emotional poison in it. And I find it so frustrating. And, I have to say, when my son was young, I was oblivious too. But thankfully, at the time, there wasn't this stuff. There was like a Tide Pods type thing. I would sit him at the kitchen table and talk to him like it was the end of the world. And he'd be like rolling his eyes, but I didn't care. But, I did what I could as I found out. But I had no idea that somebody like this was in my kid's phone 10 years ago when he was 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we shake and wake people up? That's really what this does for me.
That is the question, because how do you protect individuals that refuse to see the danger? It's so difficult. How do you protect a world that refuses to acknowledge the danger? I mean, we are starting to acknowledge it more and more in the culture, thankfully, but still there are so many who just remain blind to it. I do want to go to the comments quick because Stacy references how she remembers when a Pride was considered more fairly family friendly, right? And that's what we're talking about. There wasn't kink at event, especially in smaller communities if they did have it, mind you, for me, and that's later, my relationship with Pride in general is just separate altogether these days. Janice says, this is not the world I raised my daughter to be open-minded in. And on that note, we got to be careful, because in a world where everyone's pushing you to be open-minded, you got to be careful you don't become so open-minded that your brain falls out. And we've seen that unfortunately happen a lot in our culture. So with that, I want to get us on to the next clip, and then we'll have a larger discussion later. Because this next clip is what is drag. So we're going to go in a little bit of a flow here. You're going to see us flow from one topic to another. And in this next clip, Lindsay has a guest on. This is the first clip with Lindsay having a guest, and it is a drag queen. This is one of our longer clips, people, so buckle in. It's about 2 minutes long, I believe, and you'll see why I chose this clip, because I felt like I tried to cut it down shorter, but I felt like I just lost a great deal of it when I tried to do that. So let's jump into it. Here is Lindsay discussing what drag is.
Makeup is my favorite, Lindsay.
I'm a big fan too, Teddy. I'm gonna bring in some help on this one.
Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Teddy.
Hey!
Hi.
Thanks so much for helping me out today. Teddy, this is my friend, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. Can I ask you 2 questions before we start? What are your pronouns, and how do you identify?
I identify as male, and I use he, his pronouns.
Jeff, I was just about to tell Teddy all about what drag is. Think you can give us a definition?
Sure. Drag is when you dress up as a gender that's not your own.
And it's usually really exaggerated.
What?
Exaggerated. That means it's over the top or not realistic. People usually use a ton of makeup and wear really awesome costumes when they're in drag.
Okay, I get it.
So some drag you might see are boys dressing up as girls and girls dressing up as boys.
These are called drag queens and drag kings.
You can't tell right now, but I'm actually a drag queen.
What?
Yeah, give me 1 second and I'll introduce you to Mr. Hi, Teddy. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi!
Mister.
Yeah, Teddy.
Lindsay told me you're a drag queen.
I am.
Should I ask my questions again? Even though I already asked Jeff?
Yeah, you might actually get different answers from Mr. than you did from Jeff.
Oh, okay. Mister, what are your pronouns and how do you identify?
Well, when I'm in drag, I like she as my pronoun. But honey, you can call me whatever you want.
Okay. Mister, I have a couple other questions for you.
Sure.
Why do you have a beard?
When I do drag, I love to push the boundaries of gender.
All right. Right? Elena, you're actually going to be, but right there, right? The boundaries of gender, pronouns, all that filth. But more and more, what hits me, even as I rewatch all these clips and having watched them in the past, is how Teddy is so much given those child characteristics, not just the voice, right? Right here, what was it? Exagger what? Is what Teddy said. Has trouble pronouncing words, and then Lindsay helps, pronounce them. Lindsay, I'll give her demonic self this. She really put energy into creating this show to target children. There is no question about that. She is a top tier predator without question. Elena, I'm gonna throw it to you.
This pushing the boundaries of gender, the dressing as a gender that's not your own. This is abstract, weird crap to be talking about with little kids. I'm watching this show, and Chris, you said this maybe is up to second graders. I don't even think so. I think I was more sophisticated than this by second grade. This is 4, 5, 3, 4, 5-year-olds. And these strange abstractions to make them normal, and this dressing as a gender not your own. Like, no, just say it. It's dudes who put on dresses. Like, be clear. Drag kings, maybe drag kings are a tiny little thing, but they're not really a problem. I don't see. I've never been to a drag king show where a woman is dressed as a man. Have you guys?
I have.
I've seen it.
All right.
Actually, later, if I can find the clip, if I still have it on the computer, I can bring up a drag king that was featured at Saratoga Pride last year, which is near me. And let's just say this woman, in front of children, she goes all, she grabs herself. I will see if I still have that.
So then they're not just trying to get boys to dress up as girls. They're trying to get girls to dress up as boys. I mean, this is all. This is just mind-blowingly infuriating that as we sit here, some little kid is being programmed into this BS.
Elena, the fastest growing demographic among the queer community is actually trans men. So girls, women becoming men, quote unquote. So
but that's
absolutely
different than drag, because they think that they're really becoming men.
Right? Absolutely. But honestly, if you talk to a number of people who transition, for a lot of them, drag does play a role. But that's definitely a conversation for later, because I do want to get us moving along. Because trust me, we have a lot more disturbing content to cover. So here we had Lindsay introduce the kids to a drag queen, a bearded drag queen at that, who loves pushing gender norms, of course.
Let me just say one little thing, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, Chris. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. I think this goes back to what I was saying about drag being a vehicle for gender ideology. Because as we go on, because I have seen these clips, we're going to see that stuff pushed even more. And you'll notice Lindsay has, guess what, a trans pride flag behind her. With the trans pride flag, guess what we have right next to her? A bearded drag queen. So this is why I am absolutely against any sort of drag being performed for kids, period, at all. Because I know what they're trying to do with this stuff. They are trying to push gender ideology onto kids.
Hmm.
And you'll notice they keep using the term gender over and over and over again. And, unfortunately, gender and sex used to be pretty much synonyms with each other, but these idiots have successfully separated the two words into meaning two different things. But I will say that as soon as somebody starts using the term gender over and over again, that's a dead giveaway as to what they're
Hmm.
up to. And that's exactly what this person is up to. That's what this drag queen. I mean, my God, a
That's a
bearded
drag
drag.
beast. That's a drag
Yeah,
beast.
I
Yeah,
mean,
You want to drag
my
that through the streets and the puddles, all right?
Oh my Lord. I mean, it looks like it came up out of the fucking sewers. Sorry, guys.
It
if I
looks
bought
like
a ticket,
it looks like the beast from Beauty and the Beast became trans. I don't like honestly. Elena, you were gonna say something?
no, if I bought a ticket to a drag show, a drag brunch, and he came out on stage, I'd be like back the one time I went to a drag show, the idea was to be like, oh, which one of them look most like a woman? Which one has the best
Mm-hmm.
costume? That was the mentality of me and my friends, not
Mm-hmm.
this, whatever this. It's even drag queens should be mad about what's happened to
Mm-hmm.
drag
And I've
queens.
met some.
I agree.
There are a number of drag queens that I have met. I wish they'd be more vocal, where they have unquestionably said that no, there is no circumstance where children should be exposed to drag, and they are adamant about it. I really do wish they were more vocal, but obviously
Yeah.
they'd never work again many times, although I think that's a worthy sacrifice in that regard because you're working to protect children. I do want to jump to the comments quick before we go on to our next video, which, by the way, people, please feel free to comment. I see we do have a number of viewers between Facebook and YouTube. Please, we love your feedback. We absolutely love getting your feedback and reading your comments. If we don't get to them right away, we'll try to get to them in the future. But I do want to quickly go because Janice brought up a good point about this, is because they're preying on autistic and survivors. And we do see that, right? There is a high rate of individuals on the spectrum who are now identifying as trans, and people who are survivors, especially of SA, that type of assault. I don't want to get hit too hard here. They are often, basically always, so much more vulnerable to this kind of predatory behavior. So yeah, absolutely, Janice.
Well,
These demographics are absolutely being targeted.
something else to throw in there too. I mean, and this is something that I brought up before the Missouri House and Senate and other states as well. Um, I mean, we kind of have started kind of calling them proto gays to a certain degree, in the sense that you don't know for sure what a kid's going to grow up into, but you kind of have a little bit of an idea, based on just their behavior and everything. And those kind of kids, when they hit puberty and they start feeling attraction to other people and stuff like that, they're going to be pretty damn vulnerable as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I just wanted to throw in there. It's like, yes, it's definitely the autistic kids, the outcast girls, for sure. But it's also the younger people who are probably going to end up being gay, who are also super, super vulnerable to this stuff. And I have personal experience with this where, I do know someone whose kid is very likely just an effeminate gay man who has bought into all the trans
Mm.
crap,
And
you
and
know.
Chris, we know that you're referencing the research that has been done so far. Mind you, not the broadest, but then again, research varies. on the fact that most children who experience any kind of gender confusion, if allowed to go through puberty naturally, they end up feeling perfectly fine about their sex, about their gender. And a good number of them actually do end up identifying, coming out as gay or lesbian. That is true. But with that, we're gonna transition, funny enough, from drag queens to trans. Yep.
Here we go.
Absolutely. So so during Pride a while back, a number of years back, Lindsay did a 4-piece segment where in each video she covered the L, the G, the B, and the T. Right. And this is a clip from when she covered specifically the T and had a conversation with Teddy and the children watching what it means to be trans. So let's just jump into this clip.
Welcome to the final part of our 4-part series breaking down the letters in LGBT. You ready, Teddy?
Ready.
Okay, today we are talking about the 4th letter, T. T stands for trans or transgender.
Ooh, that's a cool new word.
Definitely, Teddy. Let's get into it. Do you have any siblings, Teddy?
Yes, I have a little baby bear brother.
And I have a little sister. Do you remember when your little baby bear brother was born?
Yeah.
Well, do you remember the very first thing you learned about the new baby bear in your life?
That he cried a lot?
No, Teddy. You probably learned that your little baby bear brother was your little baby bear brother. That your new sibling was a boy.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely it.
That's the very first thing doctors tell you when a new baby is born, whether they're human or bear. They tell parents that their baby is a boy or a girl. That's called a gender assignment, when doctors announce that babies are boys and girls.
But now I'm confused. When we talked about gender, we said that there aren't just boys and girls.
You have a really great memory, Teddy. You're right. There's something a bit weird about how doctors assign gender to babies. That's because there aren't only boys and girls, and because not all people identify with their assigned gender.
Oh, so the doctors are wrong sometimes?
Yes, Teddy. Sometimes doctors don't assign the right genders.
All right. So let's do a little bit of math here in regards to years. As I said, Lindsay set out about 8 to 10 years ago creating this content, probably a little bit closer to the 8 mark. Now, and as you said, Elena, this is clearly not even second graders. We're talking 5-year-olds and stuff. But especially, think about this. The 5 and 6-year-olds that were watching this, even 8 years ago, how old are they now? They're 13, 14, right? And suddenly we have this leap. This seed was planted so long ago. And the poisonous fruit, we are seeing it bear today. Obviously, at the end there, the doctors can be wrong and they assign gender, right? No, we know they make an observation of sex.
Oh, but see, Kevin, I didn't think that doctors could be wrong. I thought the doctors knew everything.
I know doctors know everything when they say a child is trans, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, I'm gonna throw that to you quick. I mean, what's your initial gut reaction to this?
Well, obviously, this is the end game. Yeah, that's what we're seeing here. The end game is basically the transgender stuff. And ultimately, when it gets down to it, not to sound too much like a conspiracy theorist, but it's ultimately transhumanism. So that is what we're getting at here. And some idiot like Lindsay probably doesn't even understand that she's contributing to that, but that is what she's doing. Um, but still, the transgender thing, that's the ultimate goal. It's not the gay stuff, it's not the bi stuff, it's not the lesbian stuff. And I also love how she's got LGQT. What the hell
Yeah,
is
you
that?
noticed that, right?
Yeah, I know. So I guess bisexuals don't matter anymore. But I mean, it's just just insane. But yeah, my gut reaction is, yeah, this is exactly where we should expect this stuff to go because it always ends up with the transgender stuff.
Mhm.
Always, every single
Yep,
time.
absolutely. Elena.
Yeah, I can't imagine that this girl was recruited by the medical community, to push this and maybe getting a kickback. I think what's happening here is she feels alone and she wants to build her community. She wants more trans confused oddballs out there. I'm sorry, because that's what it is. It is strange to be giving children puberty blockers to stop their growth and saying it's reversible and all the lies that they say. And so she's just tired of being on the fringe of society and wants more like her. And it is never going to be mainstream. I don't care how many children they brainwash. We're going to put a stop to it, and it's not going to happen. You're never going to be accepted. When you put they, them pronouns on your resume is going in the garbage. The data is showing it. We're not having it, but that's the motivation.
Yeah.
And I don't know where we went wrong that we in our society that you couldn't just be yourself and find one or two friends and be content in life. Why you feel like you need to be on the stage, center stage at all times. And that's what we have with the trans community.
Well, we say misery loves company, but so does victimhood, right? There ain't nothing stronger than a crowd of victims, right? There ain't nothing more annoying and aggravating. So I do want to say this though, because Lindsay definitely was pushing something. So we're not going to do this clip mainly because, like I said, there were just so many clips, and I ended up settling on 10. Could have done so many more, but Lindsay actually did a video where she comes out to the kids that watch her show. She first, if I remember correctly, I identified as a cisgender lesbian woman, right? And then she comes out as non-binary and starts going as mix, that's MX, mix Lindz. So she gets rid of Lindsay and goes by Lindz, ending with a Z. So even that, Lindsay, comes out after being out. So it's a never ending cycle. I want to quickly go to a few comments here. Daniel, yep, you jumped on that as well. Not assigned, observed, and documented by doctors in regards to gender, sex. And Stacy says, has someone told this human that she's in deep need of mental health assistance and jailed for, grooming? There's a video coming up, Stacy. Stick with us, people. There's a video coming up that you're all going to see it coming, but when you see it, you're still going to have trouble processing it. Just how insane this woman actually is. But speaking of insanity and all that, Elena, we're about to bring back an old friend for you. This individual. So predators, birds of a feather, like to flock together, of course. And mind you, Lindsay goes back 8 to 10 years, which overlaps with another OG pusher of the queer agenda, especially the trans agenda. And Elena, we introduced you to this individual, to him not too long ago. So yes, that's right. All right, people. Yep. Elena knows a little bit about what's coming her way right now. And that is this. Hold on one second. Just having trouble pulling that up. Let me just double check. All right. I think it's this one right here. One second. I think it's this one here. One second.
I know it's been a while, Teddy, but do you remember what the T stands for in LGBTQ+?
Trans. It stands for trans or transgender.
That's right. And what does it mean to be trans?
It's when you do not identify with your assigned gender.
That's right. Being trans means that the gender and pronouns you identify with don't match the gender you were assigned when you were born.
But what does that have to do with transition?
Well, sometimes trans and non-binary grown-ups go through what we call a transition.
They do?
Not all trans and non-binary people go through a transition, but a lot do. And transitions can look totally different from one person to another. Why don't we give my friend Riley a call? She'll help me explain. Hey, Riley.
Hi.
Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Teddy.
Riley, What are your pronouns and how do you identify?
I use she, her, or they, them pronouns, and I'm a non-binary trans woman. Riley, I was just trying to explain transitioning to Teddy. Can you help me out? Sure.
All right. So, Elena, the content I showed you, I believe, was from when Riley Dennis was identifying just as a trans woman and a lesbian. The non-binary thing came a bit later. So, which, by the way, is amusing that a non-binary trans woman is. Oh my goodness, and not all trans people transition in any way. Oh, the mental gymnastics. Heck. The mental car crash here is just. And Elena, I'm gonna throw this one to you first because since Riley Dennis is now an old friend of yours, what's your take on this?
When he just introduced himself, all I heard was my pronouns are she, her, they, them, and I just escaped from the asylum. Like that's all. That's a complete insanity. And when we were kids and there were crazy characters on our show, we knew that they were fake. We knew that they were parody, making fun of things. The fact is, they're really trying to convince children that this is real and you could really be this and it's good and healthy. I mean, we had Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner and Tom and Jerry. That's what I had. All right, I'm older than you guys, but the children have. He, she, they, them, could you imagine if I had a grandchild or a 5-year-old right now and he came in and they were like, Mommy, let's watch the non-binary show. I would smash the router. I would take the TVs out of the house. Enough. Wow.
And
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Goodness. Yeah. Chris, yeah. What's your response here?
I mean, I'm sorry that I'm laughing so hard, but it's hard not to. I mean, non-binary trans woman. I mean, I thought if you're non-binary, you weren't man or a woman, but this is a non-binary trans woman. It's like, I mean, if it wasn't so fucking sinister and disgusting, I would just this would be great material for Saturday Night Live or something like that because God knows they need new material. But but because it is sinister, I mean, and this is actually something that's being pushed to kids. I mean, it's horrific, really, but the mental gymnastics, I guess, is what just makes me laugh so much because it's like non-binary trans woman. Oh, okay. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, when I was a teenager, I went through like a metalhead stage. And, maybe I was a little angrier, with the nuns at school. I thought it was tough. Like it really didn't do any real damage.
No,
the way this does. That's the problem. We could name a dozen off the top of our heads trends that kids and teenagers have gone through that they just outgrow with very few scars.
And right. Well, and that's the important thing, Elena. I mean, the stuff that they're talking about is going to cause permanent medical damage. The stuff that you and I went through, because I mean I went through my sort of like grungy sort of alternative phase because I was like the epitome of the 90s kid, and I went through that sort of stuff and I grew out of it and it didn't cause any sort of bad stuff for me. And just like you said, you went through kind of like the metalhead phase.
I was goth. I went through goth. Trust me. I had long hair down past my shoulders, did the eyeliner, all that stuff back at one point.
Right. So, I mean, these are all things that kids go through, and it's no big deal. It's just kind of figuring out who you are, that sort of thing. But this stuff, this is different. This is actual permanent, life-altering stuff that we're talking about.
And I want to reiterate that while he has disappeared pretty much completely from the scene, Riley Dennis, as we covered in a prior video, was one of the OGs pushers, aggressive pushers of this confusion. Actually, Elena, for those of you who are unaware, her first guest appearance on our show was a response to Riley Dennis. And when I update the description, I'm gonna include a link to that stream. So definitely check that out, and you'll get to know who Riley Dennis was when he was more in the public eye, and most assuredly still is. Once again, the predators of a feather fly together. We're about to jump to our next video, but before we do that, I just want to quickly go to the comments. Oh yeah, Daniel, we need photos of all three of you in your respective phases. Maybe a future stream. We'll do that. We'll put those up for sure. I'm sure that'll be entertaining. And Janice, teen angst can't be treated effectively with mutilation. No, it cannot. Heck, when I was in my goth phase, I had a nose piercing, an eyebrow piercing, and guess what? Those are all gone now. So heck, with that though, we do want to move forward because we have a couple more clips left. And trust me, we're about to get into a little bit of background right now with what's happening with Queer Kid Stuff, right? If you go to Queer Kid Stuff, the YouTube channel, the last video that was really posted was 10 months ago. And prior to that, there had been a void of content from Lindsay, right? AKA Lindz, of course, the non-binary, whatever. But about 10 months ago, she posted a video claiming that she was coming back. And, that she was going to do a fundraiser and all this stuff. I haven't seen anything since then, really, but I can only guess that Lindsay absolutely plans to come back, even after that hiatus, which that hiatus I think is related to something specifically, which we'll get to in a minute. But let's just take a look at that video of Lindsay saying that she will be back.
Hi friends, I'm Mix Lindz. And I'm Teddy! We're the original creators of Queer Kid Stuff, an LGBTQ+ web series for kids and families. You might recognize me from my TED Talk, from my books, or even from my work in mainstream preschool media. We started Queer Kid Stuff together in 2016, and we've been spreading queer joy ever since. But it's been a while since we put out any new episodes. And that's about to change. Woohoo! It's finally time to bring back Queer Kid Stuff. We're launching a Kickstarter campaign to reboot the web series so we can keep spreading queer joy and combat hate. We're going to bring Queer Kid Stuff to life like never before.
All right. She plans to bring it to life like never before. And the clips we saw were from between 8 years ago, 9 years ago, because she said 2016. So if those clips weren't bringing it to life like never before, I can only imagine what we're going to see from Lindsay and Teddy if she ever does return with her show. Elena, sorry. Well, actually, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
I was gonna say it's gonna be trans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
If she succeeds, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. But yeah, to Elena for sure.
Yeah, Elena, she plans on coming back.
What does she need? First of all, what does she need a Kickstarter campaign for? I mean, if this is so important, you just go out and do it, right? She's in her office right now as it is. Just get going. Put the camera in front of you, just like we are. Second, is she gonna share the truth? Is she gonna show post-surgery infections on girls who had mastectomies? Is she going to show teenage girls who she infected with this ideology who are having hysterectomies or who are in early menopause? Is she going to show big chunks of flesh taken off of arms and legs to create fake penises? Oh, disgusting. So, let her do it. Let her come on, bring it, Lindsay. We're ready.
as you see in this clip, in under Queer Kid Stuff is Coming Back Kickstarter campaign, you see it does say 10 months ago. Now, I think this was actually more about 2 years ago, but it wasn't until I think last year that it really blew up. I think there's a reason why we haven't seen any real announcements from Lindsay as of late. And this next clip, people, you need to prepare yourself. Elena, this is the clip that y'all have seen coming, but I still am not sure if y'all are prepared for it. Because trust me,
this is pretty crazy shit.
Think about that Blue's Clues Pride video, right? So making Pride appealing to kids, right? Keep that in mind as you watch this clip right here from Lindsay. Lindsay discusses Pride. We'll just get into it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that kink isn't kid-friendly. I'm saying that kids and kink can coexist at Pride in a totally fine way. There's a nuance here. That making an event kid-friendly doesn't mean sanitizing it, aka taking something like kink out of Pride. Making Pride kid-friendly is not the same thing as sanitizing Pride. Making a Pride event kid-friendly, or I prefer kid-safe, is about making sure we're including and putting kid and youth voices and including them in Pride and particularly any justice spaces. Kids and youth voices are vital to justice movements because they are a vulnerable and marginalized group on their own, which includes their intersecting identities and oppressions. So I'm not saying that kink isn't appropriate for kids. I'm saying they can and should coexist with each other.
So, all right. I have watched this clip originally when it first went viral, and obviously in editing it and doing this, so the image of her was next to it. The rage doesn't go away, and I like to say that I get disgusted, I get aggravated, I don't feel rage that much, but this is one of those times where I will say it's absolute rage. This is a predator. All the stuff, you saw this coming from the other stuff, right? I know you saw it coming, but you also didn't see it coming, right? I wonder, is this possibly why, to a degree, we haven't seen that fundraising really focused on? But I guess we'll see. Elena, I want to hold off a little bit on your response because I know it's going to be quite the response. Chris, what's your gut reaction to this perversion and evil?
Yeah, well, like you said, I mean, it's obviously something that we can expect. I would imagine that her Kickstarter campaign probably didn't take off because she did release this video after that. And basically what she did is she let the cat out of the bag. She let everybody know what her real, true intentions were. And that is that she is, like you said, a predator. And she preys on kids, trying to get them to agree with her weird sort of, I don't know. I mean, I want to call it leftist, but, it's almost beyond that. Perverted thinking, I guess, is probably a better way of putting it. So yeah, she let the cat out of the bag. She let it be known exactly what she's trying to do, and that's probably why she never raised the money that she needed, or that she felt that she needed. Because I agree with Elena, it's like if you've got the will, you can get any word out there. It's not like any of us are putting like a ton of money into producing this podcast, you know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what you need a Kickstarter campaign for that, other than that, maybe she's also a little bit of a grifter as well. But of course, aren't all of these people?
Yeah. And that's a comment, Chris, that she's reacting to right there. I know it's a bit blurry. It says, I've never seen kink at Pride that felt inappropriate for kids. That is the comment she is reacting to, right? That she is responding to because she was criticized. And I think what hurt her, even among her own cohorts who are pushing this, is that she said the quiet part out loud. That's what
That's
she
what I
did.
said.
Yeah,
That's what I
what
meant
you
when I
said.
said
Yep.
she when she let the cat out of the bag. She said the quiet part out loud. Yes, you could say it either way, for
Yep.
sure. And that's exactly what she did. You
Yep.
know, she said the thing that we know that they're all trying to get to. And you know, this is where, you know, the maps come into play and all that type of stuff. And for anyone who doesn't know what a map is, it's the new leftist term, kind of a nice euphemism for a fucking pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I'm not saying that that's what she is, but she's certainly a freaking enabler.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm probably, I don't want to get a strike, but I'm gonna cross that line, Chris. At least let's just say that. Elena, we got one more video left for you, but I know this was a big one. What's your response to this?
You know, my first, I see where you guys are saying this may have affected her fundraising, but nobody really seems to. All the people who are into this don't have a problem with it. There are, you know, people taking their kids to pride parades, knowing they're going to be kink. There's going to be kink and naked people there. There are people taking little children to drag shows. So I really don't think that she marginalized herself from those people. And speaking of being marginalized, the one thing that she said that really annoyed me is that kids need to be a part of this because they themselves are a vulnerable and marginalized group. First of all, they're not marginalized. And I'm so sick of this implant into children's minds telling them that they're victims right from the second they can think. They're screwing with their heads and putting nothing but negativity. They are vulnerable, though. They are vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
She's right about that. On that we agree. But the reason they're vulnerable, we have to protect them is because they're vulnerable to predators like this woman and the predators that she is enabling. That was an absolutely disgusting video. I wanted to flip my desk over. I knowing that these people can speak like that in public, but you and me, we will get shut down on social media for saying that children should be protected.
And
Oh yeah,
Elena,
absolutely.
we here in our audience, we're heartbroken by how vulnerable children are. It scares us. For her, yeah, she's right that children are vulnerable, but for her, that's a positive. For her and
Oh,
her
that's not.
ilk, that's a positive.
It's not just a positive; it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so this last video was actually gonna come a little bit earlier on. Chris reached out to me and we had a conversation, and I gotta say I came to agree with Chris. This next clip does belong after this one, even though it is a throwback to Lindsay's show, Queer Kid Stuff, a couple of years ago, because it shows that Lindsay was very successful when it came to getting her claws into a real child.
Mm-hmm.
Very much she was successful. She didn't just preach it. It wasn't just out there on YouTube and parents who had been, you know, basically brought into this cult showing it to their children. Lindsay actually got a child on her show. And you will probably recognize this child. I blurred out his face because even though he got a lot of attention at one point, it breaks my heart, so I had to blur out his face. So here we go. Lindsay actually did get a child on her show. One moment.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Queer Kid Stuff. I'm Teddy, and I'm hosting today. Whee!
Queer Kid Stuff. You are enough here at Queer Kid Stuff.
Hello. Today is an extra special day. I'm in charge today. And I have a super special guest coming in for the first ever Meet a Queer Kid extra special episode of Queer Kid Stuff. I can't wait any longer. Hi, Desmond. Hi. Everyone, this is my new friend, Desmond. Desmond is amazing. No, really, that's their real name. Hi. How you doing? Good. Did you have a good day today? Yeah. First question. What are your pronouns and how do you identify? My pronouns are he, him, and I identify as a boy. Tell us a little.
All right. That clip is longer, and Chris and I had a discussion as to why it wasn't longer. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that Lindsay was successful in getting her claws into a child. For those of you who don't remember who Desmond is, a number of years ago, it became known that there was this 9-year-old, 10-year-old little boy who was performing drag. His parents were taking him out to bars to dance for men, and you can Google this. Google Desmond is amazing, the drag queen child. And there was one video specifically that showed little Desmond on a stage dancing and grown men throwing dollar bills at him. He then later was on talk shows in drag, dancing for adults down the runway on the talk shows. You had this little boy doing that. And he then was later in a video clip with a grown drag queen, a grown man, and they were simulating snorting coke and doing other drugs. I don't know where Desmond is right now. I do mean to research that, but I'm just gonna Elena, what? I'm sure you remember Desmond. What's your response to this?
I would like to know where Desmond is now, and I hope that Desmond is okay and kind of escaped the life of sexual abuse that he was put in by his parents. I don't know how we allow this, legally. Unfortunately, Child Protective Services is on the side of groomers and gender ideology in many states, because our whole idea around children has been infiltrated with sex and sexuality. New York is trying to pass a bill right now to start sex education in kindergarten. In all 50 states, there are materials about gender ideology that start in pre-K, books, plays, media, learning activities. So the fact that in our society, we were all asleep at the wheel, we let this crap creep in and take hold, really, really is scary. And it's going to make the fight that we have that much harder. Now, you guys have been in this fight for a while now, and that the left and the people who are in support of this are on offense, and they're trying to enshrine, gender ideology and sex education for 5-year-olds into law all over the place. And so this story of Desmond is sadly not going to be unique. It isn't unique. We just haven't heard all the stories yet.
Absolutely. Chris.
Yeah, I'm with Elena. I hope that Desmond is doing okay and has grown out of this. I mean, and it's like she said, this is basically child sexual abuse. I mean, it is to me, for sure. And the fact that his parents ever allowed this is disgusting. Um, we are in a precarious situation right now where, you know, um, the left and the people who push this sort of stuff are doing a great job at marketing themselves to certain people. And, I mean, it makes me think about the fact that, I was at a protest a few weeks ago, and we were protesting the fact that Kansas City, Kansas Public Library was promoting a pronouns day. And they were inviting kids in to come learn about how to use pronouns properly, as if anyone needs that. And so we were protesting that. And this woman comes driving by and she was like, she saw, and I was doing this with people from Gays Against Groomers. Even though I'm not currently a member anymore, I was still helping them out. And so I was doing it with people from Gays Against Groomers. And this woman comes by and she was like, "Oh, you're those anti-trans fucks," is what she said. And we were like, okay, guess so. And anyway, and then her response was, and this is how disgusting the thought process of these people are. So this is where I'm going with this. She was like, I'd love to have an abortion right in front of you. And I was just like, huh, wow, you people are sick and twisted, you know.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is one of the people that were with us was actually a more pro-choice person anyway. So, she yelled out, she was like, sure, go right ahead and do it. I don't care. you know. And I mean, while I disagree with her on the pro-choice thing, I was like, sure. I mean, it's good that we had somebody who could, actually say something back to her, because I was kind of like, wow, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
I was totally caught off guard. It's like, you want to have an abortion in front of me? What the fuck is wrong with you?
It honestly, and I mean, not to get too off topic, but as we've seen recently, there's been a lot of violence in that regard. The targeting of children, it starts in the womb, and in our culture right now, it starts in the womb and it goes all the way up. It's heartbreaking, it's disturbing, and it honestly, it sickens me to my core and saddens me to my core, to be honest.
Well, so my question for everyone here is, it's like, okay, so I mean, I'm trying to do my own personal things in order to make a difference in society. Um, what things do you, Elena, do you, Kevin, actually see as things that we can do to make positive changes? I'd like to hear from Elena first.
I mean, societally or on this issue,
I
for
mean,
me,
maybe at least on this issue.
I mean, or maybe, yeah, a couple different things. Like the first thing, that comes to my mind is, um, getting back to God. And, people will be like, oh, I'm glad that works for you. And I'm like, no, it works for everybody. Please.
Right.
The fact that we've completely abandoned faith and godly principles and the laws that he's given us, makes me really sad, because I think that if we started moving as a society back to that, a lot of these problems would just dissolve naturally.
Right.
Because they're anti-God, all of it. From a more practical standpoint, I mean, I feel like I'm doing the best I can, like you are, just getting the word out and doing what I can to educate people. I say I'm always just trying to hit people over the head with a frying pan and say, wake up, look at what's happening to children in this country. This isn't some obscure thing, all the years that we said kids are being transitioned. Oh, and they said they aren't. Surgeries aren't happening. Kids aren't being given drugs. And then all of a sudden, hey, you have no right to stop kids from taking drugs and having surgery. And now
Right.
for me, it's the books in the school. And I think if you can wake people up to one angle of it, and that be the goal, then the world opens up and they can start to see the books and the media and the songs and the music and the cartoons and the gender stuff in schools. And so just spreading the word and having your facts straight. And if you want to take it further, I'm calling into a hearing tomorrow in Nevada, about a book bill, and I'm going to be reading pornography that was found in Nevada public schools, over the phone and testifying. So that won't take me too long to do. I only get 2 minutes, a 2-minute time. I don't know how long I'll be on hold, but for 2 minutes, I'm going to read pornography to the state Senate in Nevada and let them hear it. We have to find ways like that to get the truth out.
So for me, Chris, Elena touched on it a bit, is I think first pointing out how the agenda has been pushed, right? How the process has been, it's You point to something happening, they say it's not happening. Then you show proof that it's happening, they say, well, it's not happening a lot, so why focus on it? And then when it is happening a lot, they say, well, it's good that it's happening, and if you don't support it, you're a bigot and all this stuff. So there's that aspect. And also, I think things like this is why I encourage people. You may be like, I will never get a channel. I will never have a lot. I don't have a huge channel, but if one person, right, sees this and shares it with a number of people in their life, and they get introduced to a reality they didn't know existed, this filth, they understand how real it is. And like I said, they give it to 5 to 10 people and they spread it. I mean, that is what I think we need to focus on continuing to do, because I don't know if it was in our last stream, but I've had my moments where I used to be more sympathetic to parents and adults, who were, they would whisper to me, I support what you're doing. I just know I'll get canceled, all this stuff. And while I still sympathize with them, I've lost friends, and I mean in-person friends, 15-year friendships, 20-year friendships, family issue. I've had it all, right? If your silence is sacrificing your children, understand that. Your fear of being canceled, and you might be, they might come at you hard. But the alternative is you remain silent and they take your child anyways.
Mm-hmm.
That's the alternative. Yes, they might actually manage to destroy your life to a degree, but at least you're fighting for the child you love. You being afraid. I went and spoke. I've gone and I've spoken about this even at a school board and at events and stuff. And what's frustrating is I work to get the word out, right? And parents were freaking out online and all that stuff in response to the content I shared. But none of those parents, none of those legal guardians, yes, I am aggravated with them right now, showed up to that PTA meeting. The PTA meetings in my area were basically empty when I tried to bring awareness to this. And it's like, I have a godson. I don't even have a biological child or an adoptive child. How the hell am I fighting more than you are, and you have a child in bed right now in your damn home?
Yeah.
How are you not fighting more? Your child doesn't need your whispers of support. Your child needs you screaming from the damn rooftops that you're fighting for them. That's what your child needs. You get canceled, so what? That's a damn, okay, you might even lose a job. All right, I get it. That's a struggle, right? I get it. But you're risking losing your damn child. And now I am going in circles a bit, but that's what I have to say with that.
You're right, Kevin. I mean, I've experienced some of the exact same frustrations. I mean, getting people up off their asses to actually do something about this stuff. I mean, thank God there's people like you, people like Elena out there, who are actually doing something to bring attention to this stuff. It was saddening. I was talking about the protest that I went to where I helped Gays Against Groomers. We had a very small number of people show up, even though it was very widely promoted. And I I am always constantly asking, it's like, where are the parents?
Mm.
Where are the churches? Where are the synagogues? What are they doing?
Well,
And the thing is, I was sitting in a state senator's office this past week, and I was there with a parent, the parent that I was talking about before the show started, and he it was so nice of him, and it's not to pat ourselves on the back a little bit too much, but it was very nice of him. He was like, who's actually really out there fighting this stuff right now? It's gays and lesbians, and most of them don't even have kids. And and I had never even thought about that before. And I was just kind of like, I guess it is sort of true. And why is that? Where are the parents? Where are the churches? Where are the
Hmm.
synagogues? What are they doing? I mean, there's parents out there like Elena, of course, but it's
Yeah,
like,
not
what
enough.
the hell are they doing?
And
You
even
know,
that, though, Chris, right? So I didn't mean to cut you off, but Elena is a great example. But Elena, correct me if I'm wrong, because I only know of your son, right? You have your son,
Hmm.
right? He's a grown man.
Yeah,
And
he's
so
21 years old. He doesn't even
he's
live with me
he's
anymore.
21 years old. So it's great that you are a parent and you're out there bringing attention to this, but your child is a grown. We need the parents who
Right.
have the kids in kindergarten out there fighting. And Chris, you mentioned it. The excuses I get. One of the big excuses I get is, well, I work a full-time job. I'm not like these leftists that off welfare. When I was on the left, mind you, it was before it got like this. I went to protest. I had a over 40 hours a week job, right? And I still made it out to stuff when I was on the left. You're telling me that your child isn't even worth a damn sick day?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, that's what they're telling you. They're not worth.
Just
Listen. We could go through an hour of excuses that people make.
mhm.
It is not important enough. And I've said it from, it's got to be 10 years when cancel culture really took hold, right? And whether it was this issue or any other issue, and all the people would whisper and say what they really thought, but they were afraid to say it for all the reasons, all that laundry list. And every time I said they can't cancel all of us. If we all just spoke up, we would have a voice. And I want to add to your frustration with parents, I want to add teachers, because we've got the teachers who are pushing this crap, but we've got a lot of teachers and administrators who are just intimidated and stay quiet and zip it and go along to get along because they don't want to mess with their union and they don't want to mess with their pension and they're afraid. And if they had all just stuck together and spoken up and had a spine right from the beginning, we wouldn't even be in this situation. We wouldn't have as many kids being groomed.
Right.
So it's not just the parents, it's the teachers, it's the politicians. So, look at Seth Moulton in Massachusetts. Right after Trump won, he comes out, he's a Democrat, and he comes out and he's like, yeah, it's really not right to have boys and girls sports. I have daughters of my own. And, obviously we missed the mark on this, right? 5 minutes later,
Miss the mark.
5
God.
minutes later, he backtracked and he's now pushing for boys and girls sports again because he got in trouble.
Yeah.
He got taken to the back room, took a beating, came back out and said, "Oh, I was wrong." So the politicians don't have spines, the parents, the teachers. There's a lot of people that have accountability here. And have
Yeah,
all
and,
of this
and,
on
and
their
that's
hands.
why I generally say that all of this stuff is a societal problem, because people do kind of try to look for like one group or someone to blame all of this stuff on. And I'm kind of like, no, because really listening to you, Elena, brings me back to I mean, I do have my own frustrations about motivating people for sure,
Yeah.
but beyond that, this is a societal problem. This is a situation where, you know, uh, everyone's a little bit to blame for it, and God, we've got to stick together, get the word out. We need to write to our politicians, talk to our politicians. We need to protest. We need to do podcasts like these, so that people understand what's going on. Um, there are so many things that we could be doing and people just aren't doing, but I am thankful for people like you, Elena. I mean, I'm going to plug her documentary that she did, American Groomer. Anyone who hasn't seen it should see it. It's absolutely amazing.
It is.
Go to
Absolutely.
americangroomer.com. If you don't know some of the stuff that we're talking about, that that movie will absolutely open your eyes to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here.
And I will once I get a chance to edit this, folks, in the description, I will include a link to that documentary. As much as I'm still filled with rage, I do want to get a chance to reference the comments. We are almost at an hour and a half. I know I talked earlier about how I had a little bit of a personal story with family, but I will go into that in another stream. I had a situation, just to give you an idea, where a family member asked me to explain to their children what gay is, and yeah, I'll go into that in another stream. That's one of the reasons that clip, what gay means, rubs me the wrong way for sure. But to the comments, Stacy said, someone told me recently I talk too much about it. I'm like, dude, it's nice you can ignore it in a bubble, right?
Right.
And I've heard that. I think a lot of us have heard that to a degree, you know, saying that we're one note. It's a pretty damn important note. Have you guys experienced that? I mean,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or then if I don't talk about it, I feel like I have nothing else to talk about. So I get, is everything okay? Why are you so quiet? This is like, I'm over here thinking about this. Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, yes, and I have experienced frustration from family members, particularly my brother, because it's like, oh my God, everything you talk about is political. And then when I told him that, I was going to be going into politics, then he threw up his hands in like, resignation. But it's like, sorry, it's like this stuff is important to me. This is what's important to me, you know.
So Stacy says, excuse me, is Lindsay a girl? I don't think so. Lindsay is actually a female, a woman, right? A very confused woman and a predatory woman, but yes, a woman. Daniel says, check her hard drive. I don't think we need to, especially with that last clip. I think we know what we will find at this point. Take that however you wish. I am not putting it in any direction, Daniel also said, hopefully Desmond was taken away from his groomer-friendly parents. I actually don't know that. I don't believe he was, unfortunately. Stacy said it made her cry, which, trust me, I think I'm beyond tears. That's the thing. I honestly, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, I feel beyond tears when it comes to it. When I see that, there was a time, not just probably, there was a time when I would have cried. Now I just feel more rage than I do the tears.
Yeah,
when
same
I see
here.
that.
Same here. It just makes me angry more than bringing me to tears.
Yeah, Stacy says homeschooling. Don't get me wrong. I think that's an increasingly good option. As long as you're socializing your child, which in my area they have called the homeschoolers have learning pods. So they rotate houses. So where the kids are taught and their lessons and everything, which I think is a healthier way. It's not the stereotype of a family boarding up the windows and educating their kids behind those boarded windows and doors.
Right.
So it actually is good. And actually, research shows that kids who are homeschooled are actually more well informed on the history of our nation and can cite information off the top of their heads a lot faster than kids in our current education system, which we've seen are graduating without really even knowing how to read.
That actually brings up a good point, Kevin, and it's a little bit off topic. But before the show started, when I was showing Nathan some of these clips and he was losing his mind over it, the thing is I was relating to him the fact that when I went into first grade, you were expected to learn to already know how to read. And guess what? Who was expected to teach you that? Your parents. And that's exactly who taught me how to read. It was my parents, not the school system. The school system didn't teach me how to read.
Me too.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned it, I could read and I could write in cursive by the time I went to kindergarten. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I remember. And that's the thing, they taught cursive really early on, though. They jumped right into it. It wasn't, now it's non-existent pretty much, but it was right as soon as you got in there, you were learning cursive as you were learning your standard. At least that was my experience. Another comment from a different Daniel. We have a Daniel L and we have a Daniel Day. Daniel Day says the gays and lesbians fighting against this because they know that they are targeting kids. So these individuals like Lindsay are targeting kids. And, that would probably just grow up to be healthy gays and lesbians, which is what Chris referenced earlier, especially when it comes to the gender confusion. So those have been some of the stronger comments. Once again, people, I want to thank you. I think we were at the 1.5 hour mark, a little over, almost 1:35. We could go on for hours more, let's be honest. But I think, we can cover this again in the future. Trust me. I mean, as she said, Lindsay's hoping to come back, and we have a lot more predators out there to cover, unfortunately. But with that, I guess for me, my final thoughts on this. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit reference Elena. I truly believe it's a spiritual sickness in our nation, and I think it stems from the attack on the family unit, because strong families build strong communities, and strong communities build strong nations. And part of the support structure for those strong families, it has been historically strong faith. And I do believe that as humans, we are driven to try to believe in something. And the saying goes that every person worships at one kind of altar or another. If it's not God, it's science, or it's the self, or in this case that we see, it's an altar where child sacrifice takes place. Yes. Hey, Vinny, it's great to see you on. I know you're working late, so I just want to give a shout out to Vinny, one of our OGs. So I think that's the main focus, is we have this spiritual sickness that we need to address, and the attack on the family unit. But also, like I said, I'm a bit frazzled with this, because it really is a matter of getting the word out there. Like I said earlier, please, people, share this, make your own content, do whatever you feel you can do, contribute. Even if you don't want to get your face out there, and I know I have my feelings about that, but even if you don't, share this kind of content, others' content, with everyone you know. If you feel someone in your life doesn't know about Lindsay and queer kid stuff, introduce that person to this sickness is real in our society. And I could ramble more, but I'm going to leave it with that. I guess that's my closing statement, is we need to heal the spiritual sickness in our nation. We need to heal our families, and we need to bring as much attention as possible to this. Chris, going to go to you with your closing statement, and then Elena. So, Chris.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, I agree with you, what you said. When I was recently speaking to my state senator, and we had a great conversation. And one of the things that he said, and I absolutely agreed with, is that we've done everything in our power to take God out of our society. And we've done a great job at that. And I think that this is exactly the fruit of that endeavor, to take God out of everything. So, we all may have different theological uh, beliefs on various issues, or whatever the case may be, but I think that all three of us would agree that the absence of God is absolutely a problem in
Yes.
our society. And I'm not saying that we need to become a theocracy, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that, showing a little bit of reverence for our creator and that sort of thing would be so much greater than what we're dealing with now, because this is godless evil. This is evil stuff,
Mm-hmm.
guys.
Absolutely. Elena, your final thoughts. Well, not your final, but your thoughts for the wrap up.
Yes. So I would say in my church, we're a mission-based church, and we have missionaries and church plants all over the country and all over the world. And one of the things that we talk about is there are several ways to be a part of that. One is to be a missionary and go either permanently or on a trip to spread the gospel. Another is to support financially, and another is to pray, and spread the word. So that's the same here. Pick a path, be a face of the movement like us, be out there. If not, you can support people financially who are out here doing the work. It costs money, like I'm going to Nevada in a few weeks, and Chris, to give a speech about this. Chris, you have traveled all over the place to work at rallies or to speak at state houses. And Kevin, actually, I know you have too. We've all put our own time and money in, and there are organizations or that are doing this work and supporting people like us. And then you have, you can spread the word locally or amongst your friends. And if you're a praying person, we ask that you pray about this, ask God to intervene, and ask him to pray for protection for our children, and to pray to separate them from this evil, and to give us what we need to wake people up. So don't feel helpless. These are just a few easy ways that you can get involved. And everybody should do something.
Yeah, absolutely. At least pray.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Definitely pray. And to our viewers, those watching and those who will watch, those watching live and those who will watch the full thing later, such as Vinny. If there is any stream of ours, if you only the whole time you watch us share one stream with others, please share this one. Because we covered through these clips 8 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, 2016, right? This woman was planting a seed, and she was infecting children who were 5, 6. Those are teenagers now, 13, 14 years old. Please, if there is any stream of ours that you share with others, I know it's a long one, almost an hour and 45 minutes. Please make it this one. Another thing I do, by the way, is I later add timestamps to where people can just go to certain points in the video. I make those timestamps the start of each video. So please, I implore you again, if there's any video of ours that you share, please make it this one and share it with everyone that you think will listen. Anyone that you think will listen, especially parents and those who have children in their lives that they love. With that, God bless you all. Have a great evening. Thank you for the comments. Please, again, share, subscribe, like, and we will catch y'all next Monday. Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Take care.